What's up, guys? Tommy Carrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got an incredible guest today. Show starts right now. Just showing, you sent me a video of the Iranian ballistic missiles going to heading over to Israel from a plane. You just said that that area is just full of stupidity. And I just finished First Casualty by Toby Harnden, and that was 25 years ago, and nothing changes. And then you start to, but in the 2000, and it's about the first CIA team in like November 2001. And in the book, they're talking about how the same thing happened with the Soviets. And then it goes to the Soviets, and they're talking about like, oh yeah, no, this happened. And you're just looking at it, and it really is it is the most true manifestation of like war never changes. It really is. It just I know that's such a cliche saying, obviously, but that specific region really does just, it's just echoing for eternity. Just, well, to quote Anchorman, the rivers will run red with Burgundy's blood. But it really is just, that's all it is, just nonstop. But with that cheery beginning, Mr. Michael Yon, how are you?
That was very cheery. Well, I mean, I'm in Texas, so that's good. And yeah, you know what you're talking about. This is a great book, by the way. The Memoirs of Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. You ever heard of that book?
No.
Actually, that's a new copy. My friends got that one, but I got
What the fuck?
1852 printed version right
Good
here.
Lord. I read a
I
book
got,
last year, I think called The Crowd. It was written in like 1900.
oh, the crowd. The
Or
crowd was great. What was that? 1890 by LeBon. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. It was because
Yeah.
it predated Titanic.
Yeah, here's this book and the old one. Here's the new version, but the I like the old version ones, the old versions better. But this is called Memoirs of Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds by Charles Mackay. It's funny. I was just on the phone with Dr. Chris Martinson just like 5 or 10 minutes ago, and we were talking about that too. He's like, "Oh yeah, Charles Mackay." It's a very important book, and it talks about these just delusions that people we get. I'm not going to talk about people as if those people. I mean, because we are those people, right? So we have to be cognizant of this crowd think that inevitably is dumbed down from it. The crowd has a low IQ in pretty much all instances, it seems, right? And the crowd now is, hey, let's go to war with Iran. It's a great idea to go to war with Iran. It's not a great idea to go with Iran. It's very idiotic, and it could. Now, when I say this, which I've said many times over the years, this could end up in the destruction of Israel. Immediately, the emotions and the madness of the crowd comes out, and they go, "No, that's impossible. It can never happen because such and such. It's impossible." They got the Iron Dome. Let's call it the Iron Doom. The Iron Dome has failed. Just as many of us said that it eventually would, one way or the other, it would fail, and it has. Either they've turned it off or they just can't stop the hypersonics. And it looks like they can't stop the hypersonics because the Ukrainians were unable to stop the hypersonics as well. And in fact, they're so accurate they were hitting our Patriot missile batteries, right? So I mean, which is and I'm calling them the ham missiles that are coming from Iran, ham, the hypersonic Allahu Akbar missiles, right? So I mean, and both don't eat pork, but I mean, so it's called the ham missile, and they're going through the Iron Doom or the Iron Dome. I mean, this whole idea that that somehow there's going to be a magical shield that's going to save us, but over the time, one of the worst things that can happen to Israel, I call them Zimps, Zionist imperialist, because they're Zionists are using Israel. Israel is not just the I don't know where the base for Zionism is. Is it in the United States? Is it in Israel? Is it a Meta base? I mean, I think it's Meta. In other words, it's
Hmm.
distributed, right? And there's no Jewish king. There's no Jew king. And by the way, Zionism is not Judaism at all. It's just not. It seems like most Zionists are probably Christians. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's true, but I brought it up many times, and Christians tend to agree with that. Jews tend to agree with it, and atheists tend to agree with it. I think that the bulk of Zionists are American evangelicals,
Yeah.
of which are quite a few of my friends.
Yeah.
And
No, I would. Yeah.
they're just hardcore. They're more dangerous for actual Jews that they're trying to save. The last thing you want is for people to be trying to save you when you don't need saving, right?
Yeah.
And
It really is. Yeah. Let us save you. We'll prevent. They're like, dude, no, we got it.
yeah, and it's and at the end of the day, they all got this magical idea that somehow magic will save Israel. And it's not even the Israel out of the Bible. It's Zion stand, right? I mean, I call it Zion stand, but the Zimps are the Zionist imperialists. And the Zimps are clearly going to make, and Netanyahu, or as many Israelis call him, Satan Yahoo. That's what Israelis call him, right? And that he literally was holding up maps of how they want to destroy Iran and Iraq and Syria. Meanwhile, the moment Iran says something in return, like, well, you'll bathe in a sea of fire or whatever, you know how they talk.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they said that verbatim, but
They
that's
probably
how
did.
immediately they say that they're like, well, we have to go to war then, so we got them to say a bad word and poke us in the chest, so let's nuke them. I mean, we're 1 inch away from something going nuclear, right? And now we got 3 aircraft carriers steaming towards the region, and let's keep in mind, we all know that the Zionists attacked the USS Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
We know that they murdered and attacked our own sailors and one of our ships. They did it, period, for which they've never been held responsible, period, right?
LBJ
And,
brushed it under the rug.
yep, and huge jab pushing and the whole. I used to be a strong supporter of Israel because I grew up in that herd
Mm-hmm.
Madison crowds. We have to destroy. We have to watch out. We have to defend the magical elves of Israel. Well,
Yeah.
I've been with a lot of the magical elves of Israel in places like India, and and they are hardcore. The drugs in Israel are just like they are in California. I mean, there's heavy drug usage. It's not some pure place where everybody's, it. I mean, that party on October 7th that was attacked by clearly it was clearly orchestrated by the Zimps, right? Clearly, nakedly, right? That was a drug and sex party. But
Uh-huh.
meanwhile, everybody's like, oh, they were just having a good old time, having a drug and sex party right next to Gaza. And it took 7 or 8 hours for the IDF, the
Yeah,
super
that's where
ultra.
I always that's where I always I call bullshit is like and I love all things conspiracy, but to me that's not even a
That's
conspiracy.
not
No, but
conspiracy.
well,
Yeah.
I prefaced it by I was gonna say because that's not even a conspiracy. You cannot look at something like the DMZ in North and South Korea or the White House lawn, and you also can't tout the supremacy of the Mossad, and then look at that tiny border and go, huh, it just happened. It was just they just gathered there. They just all
I've been
got there.
there. I've been to that. I'm like, it's highly
Yeah.
guarded, right? It's like there's no chance that just the equation doesn't reconcile that Mossad is the super ultra bestest ever, spy organization, all in the entire galaxy and even the universe, and yet that happened,
Yeah.
right? And at the same time, that it took 7 or 8 hours for the super ultras of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, 7 or 8 hours, roughly 8 hours to get in full response. That's an entire McDonald's shift in a country that's about the size of the yard here, right? I mean, seriously, Blackhawks take 4 minutes to get off the ground. A cold Blackhawk, they go 180 knots. The QRF, the Quick Reaction Forces, should have been in combat within 20 or 30 minutes, max 30 minutes. If it took them 35 or 40 minutes to get into combat, slinging lead at the enemy, I'd fire the commanders, right? I mean, that's, people have said when I've said that, you don't understand. They got to make a plan. Shut up, man. I've done so much combat. You know what I'm saying? That they say that all the time when I say they should have been immediately slinging lead, right? They're saying no, they have to make a plan. Here's the plan. If you're a special operations soldier or you're an infantryman on QRF and they're killing your people and they're shooting your people, you grab a rake or a shovel if you don't have your
And
weapon,
beat them to
and you
death.
steal a bicycle and you start going to combat and trying to find a rifle on the ground, right? If you are in uniform and on the QRF, you launch in those Blackhawks or you jump in your vehicles and you get over there. Your plan is to, I hear gunfire, go that way, right? Okay, that's the enemy, sling lead. If we get killed, bring more, right? If our helicopter gets shot down, bring more, right? That's how it should have been. Total saturation of the battlefield. They should have been there instantly. But 7 or 8 hours later, the super dupers of the IDF, backed up by the ultra spy agency, the Mossad, whose spying seems to be focused mostly on the United States and Epstein Island operations all over the place, mice operations. The four major cheeses in recruitment are money, ideology, coercion, ego, mice, right? Money, ideology, coercion, ego. So we should call it the Mossad, right? Because what they've done is captured our government. People are now talking about, Iran has 3 terabytes of information from the Mossad's. I don't know. It's probably another rumor. But if they do, I hope they release it. They need to. Hey, Iran, if you've got all that evidence from the Mossad, which I think is nonsense, but if you do, please just throw it out
Yeah,
there. Drop it out in USBs all over America, please, and it'll make its way around. You know what I mean? I mean that because
yeah.
our government is
Let it
so
ride.
captured. Just look at the operation just at Epstein Island. You got to keep in mind their operations are global, and a lot of people don't realize how intense spying operations and how industrial they are. Information is gold, and coercible
100%.
information. I mean, they have entire libraries. Like somebody's now rising to power. What do you have on Joe
It's
Smith,
it's it's
right?
more it's more valuable than a hypersonic. It's the ability to project power.
Yeah, the ability to get what you want out of
Yeah,
another government because you've got, here he is or she is doing something illegal or something they don't want their family to know. Next thing you know, yes, we all must defend Israel. They are God's children. And it comes out of people that you're like, why is that coming out of those people? What about our border?
yeah.
Our border. What about our mass deportations and the drug problems in our country, right? Meanwhile, we're running off to help the magical elves again, right? Who have just started a war with Iran. But the people that worship magical elves will inevitably go, I will never listen to you again. You're not, you don't know what you're talking about. But watch how right I end up being again, like with Iraq,
They're gonna
Afghanistan,
draw us in.
Ukraine, the border, the Darien Gap, long list. My accuracy is absolutely spot on. Just randomly pick anything that I've written from 20 years ago and audit it. Go back to the old stuff because now you've had time to see how it plays out, right? I know the commander of CENTCOM, right? I know him. I was in combat with him for 5 months. He's the one running the war for us, right? Eric Kurilla, General Eric Kurilla. I was in combat with him this close for 5 months. He got shot right in front of me 3 times. Continued to fight. It's online in a dispatch called Gates of Fire, right? I know Eric. I know him well. 5 months of combat, right? And I was always with him, or mostly with him. Sometimes I would go out with other commanders in that battalion, but mostly it was with Eric. And Eric is running the war. He's highly competent. He's very aggressive, very intelligent, and very working for the magical elves, right? He also pushed the death jab. I had immense respect for him. And in fact, I thought that he probably earned a Medal of Honor for some of the things that happened in Mosul.
Hmm.
That respect is there. But then when it came time for the jab, he was having, his daily briefings, his command briefings. He wanted 100% compliance with that jab. He was coercing his own soldiers. That's when he lost me, right? And then all this stuff, ready to go ahead and rip Iran's heart out and that sort of thing. Listen, this can destroy United States if they close Strait of Hormuz, which I think is a high chance. I'm not sure how much people realize how important this is, right? I'm constantly talking about the Panama Canal because I'm down there a lot, right? In fact, anyway, but the Panama Canal is majorly important to the United States, right? The Strait of Hormuz, if that gets closed, that's going to have devastating effects on China, on Japan, on Europe, many countries, right? And it'll
Trying to
have
look it
it'll
up.
have
Sorry.
effect on us as well, but it'll have severe effects on them, right? I mean, we're setting conditions here for actual huge famines. I've been warning about famines for 5 years. It's a matter of time until they get here, right? It's a long shot, but they're coming, right? And when they come, that's going to create a lot of HOP, human osmotic pressure, that push and the pull of migration, right? So that HOP, when we have famines, we will be severely invaded. Keep in mind, Trump talked about stopping the invasions of the United States. The flows are way down, but we haven't taken out United Nations. United Nations, let me say something. I'm sorry, I've said a whole lot. I'll be
I don't
quiet.
care. Keep going. No, keep
But
going.
but but yeah, but I was just talking with Chris Martinson about this and a couple of other people this morning. Iran calls us the Great Satan, but then you look around and you look, we're turning boys into girls and girls into products. We're pumping drugs into children, like mind altering, life altering drugs. We death jabbed our entire country or everybody that would take it, coerced them, tricked them, paid them with French fries to jab their babies. That is great Satan
It's
stuff.
it's hard to
Yeah,
20 years ago. It's like, hey, you. Now you look at it, I'm like, you lose me at the perversion of innocence, the attacking of children. The rest of
that's
us are
great
adults,
Satan
free
stuff.
will. We're allowed to fuck up our lives. When you indoctrinate children, I, I hey man, I can't defend that. I can't tell you that that's not satanic.
It is
It
satanic.
is.
Straight up hardcore. Look at the raves that the Israelis were having, that drug and sex party next to Gaza. I mean, that's right out of If I Were the Devil from 1965 from Paul Harvey. If I Were the Devil, that is right out of that 1965 famous broadcast that he did. You've heard that before? If I Were the Devil. Oh, you got to
Oh
hear.
yeah, no, I have. Yes, I
Yeah.
have. Yeah, if I were the yeah, no, I've heard
It's
that. Yeah,
straight out of that. It's
this is
straight.
what I would do, and I would attack them, and I'd do this, and I'd do that, and yeah.
I get them on drugs,
Uh,
alcohol, yada yada
if I were the
yada.
yeah, no, that's
That was straight great Satan stuff right there, right? And meanwhile, as soon as Iran says you guys are the great Satan, we're like, whoa, we can call ourselves the great Satan, but you can't. You know what I mean? But look, I was talking with Masako Ganaha last night in Japan. And we were talking about this. She said, Iran was one of the only ones that stood against the World Health Organization. People like Israel just jumped in line, right?
hmm.
I mean, let's face reality. Those Persians ain't dumb, right? They're just as smart as the Zimps, easily, right? The Zimps are like, the Zionist, imperialist. That's a Zimp, Zionist imperialist, right? A Zimp, and they seem to think that they're bulletproof, and they could literally lose Israel at this point. They could. It might take 5 or 10 years. I don't know the timeline. It could take 5 months. I don't know. But it's clear now that the enemies see that the Zimps are weak in Israel, because I mean the blows are landing unopposed into Israel. I mean, the Ham missiles, the hypersonic Alu Akbar missiles are striking targets, and they are striking with accuracy. Like, they took out one of their main research facility in I call it Zion Stand. Israel is just Zion Stand. It's another stand.
In terms of putting people, against the wall, right? That's always you're gonna get them to act like a caged animal, right? And so if you want surrender, you give them a golden bridge to retreat across. They're getting to a point where it's like the Iron Dome, like that is effective in the same way that you know the White House perimeter is effective. You have snipers on the roof. Yeah, for the average person, even for average, if I go get 100 guys, we're gonna get mowed down. It very quickly starts to lose its efficacy when there's a million people. Nuclear bunkers, those are meant for continuity of government. Those are meant for continuity of operations. Even Eisenhower said you have to accept that the A team, the current administration, will be vaporized, probably even the B and C team, but luckily we go through the Z team. The Iron Dome and things like that work for what we saw, again, not in all of my military wisdom. They work for what we saw last year, right? Tons of drones, kind of the same old same old. And even then was not that impressive. If you push them against the wall, anyone, if it's Israel pushing Iran against the wall, if it's Madagascar declaring war on the Vatican, if you push anyone against the wall, those defenses They don't work that way. They don't work that way. There's a reason why we dropped SDI, because we knew it wasn't going to work. If you push them against the wall, they're gonna just drive in there with a nuke. They're gonna get close to it with a nuke. That's all they need. And then I start to think, well, they're not stupid. They know what they're doing, so they want them to act like a caged animal. Do you think that's any part of the calculation that they
I think
want?
the chances of that nukes will fly during this are greater than 50%.
So do I. I
Yeah,
keep waiting. I
yeah,
just keep
yeah,
waiting to
yeah.
see like
And keep in
flashing.
mind that won't save Israel, and that'll put a target on. Keep in mind
No one wins.
the Zionists have intentionally conflated Judaism with Zionism so that you're anti-Judaism, you're always anti-Semite, blah blah blah. That magic wand is broken, by the way. The moment somebody waves the magic wand, you are anti-Semite, and I'm like, get out of
No one
here. You're a
cares.
clown. That stuff used to work. Now the magic wand is snapped in half and thrown in the fireplace. It doesn't work anymore. If you're not being called anti-Zion, anti-Semite at this point, you're just
You're a
not a
loser.
serious person. You're just a loser. You know what I mean? That's like being remember when they called us anti-vaxxers and now they're dead?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Remember all those dead people that were trying? How many are now dead who were saying we're so stupid, we're evil, we're going to kill grandmother, and now they're dead, right?
The
And
CEO of
so
YouTube.
and we're still here. I mean, we might not be here tomorrow, but we outlasted those guys, right? Because we saw what was happening and we see what's happening now. And the magic wand of calling us anti Semite or anti Jew or whatever, it ain't working. It's going the opposite direction. It's building more people that used to be strong support base, like me. There's a lot of us who used to be strong support base who then went to neutral, who then went to you're on your own. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You need to go fight the Persians and have fun, right? And because we should not be in that war, period. And what's going to end up happening? I don't know, but how are you going to use nukes on yourself, right? A huge amount of people within Israel are actually Muslims and Arabs and whatnot, right? I mean, who's going to nuke themselves when they start getting insider attacks, which have always happened there? What are you going to do when people are just coming like ants to your border and into your border? What are you going to do when they penetrate your border and they're coming like ants into your homeland? You can nuke yourself
You
if you want.
can, but
I mean, and knowing them, maybe they would, but that would be doing the job. That would be Satan doing his job in fire, right?
yeah, it's a unique thing in that something like the United States, it's like with a nuke, you don't need to get close. But luckily, we have oceans. But I get that you can Saddams and all that stuff. Israel's so tiny and so surrounded. Okay, if you get maybe like a 15 kiloton like Hiroshima, that might not do it. But if you get like a megaton, which have existed since the 50s, you don't need. You can be within 100 miles of the border and still do insane damage. And I don't see how anyone win. I understand false. I obviously don't defend them, but I understand what it is in theory. If it was a game, I look at it and I go, yeah, I get it. You tag the thing that you wanted to tag, and that's how you sway public opinion.
Yeah.
There, this isn't like a normal. This is
This is a
outright.
trade.
This is
This
death
is
cult. Yeah, this
is
is off
yeah,
the rails. There's no
exactly.
winning.
Israel is a giant school shooter.
Yeah,
They're like on SSRIs shooting up the school right now, knowing they're going out. Their manifesto is, basically, if we go down, we're taking all you with us. They are totally psychotic, death cult, right? And that's what we have to recognize. We've got this backwards. We can deal with the Persians. We can do business with the Persians. They're sensible people, but meanwhile, the actual people that are turning boys into girls and girls into products, drugged up culture, legalizing cannabis. Oh, people go crazy when I say that, but I'm sorry. I've been to too many places like Colorado and all over California and all these places that legalize cannabis. You're all collapsing. You're all trash at the end of the day when you do that, right? And they'll say, what about alcohol? Yep, that too. That too. Exactly. These are the weapons if I were the devil, right? Paul Harvey, 1965. Listen to it. If I were the devil, he just goes right down the playlist that's unfolding now. And there's so many levels of attack going on here. Another one is, If you read this book, well, here's the nice old versions, the ones I like to read. It's from 1841. My books were from 1852. They're reprints, but this is one that's more like printed recently. Same book, Madness of Crowds. If you read the part in there about the tulip mania and the
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi scheme, you read the Mississippi scheme and tulip mania, and you combine those two, and you're like Bitcoin.
And I know Tulip
Bitcoin.
Mania. What's the
It's like,
Mississippi? What's the? I
what's
know Tulip Mania. What's the Mississippi scheme?
the Mississippi scheme was there was two schemes that were happening almost simultaneously. They had some overlap in timing. That was like 1720-ish, right? In 1720, the Mississippi scheme, the French were raising a lot of money from their own people to do some development in the Mississippi River area, right? So the Mississippi scheme. So it was actually taking place in France. And actually the guy that was behind it was a guy named John Law. He was a Scottish guy. And so he came over from Scotland and he was a huge fraudster. Long story short, he had the French government printing fiat money to boost up the stock prices and get the French people to put in more money and collapsed. But at the same time, almost exact same time, we're talking 1720, there was also the South Sea bubble, which more people have heard of. So the Mississippi scheme was France doing basically highway robbery of their own people. And then right across the water, England next door to France was doing the South Sea bubble, same thing. Very similar, very similar. But the madness of crowds, the populations just got in it. We can make so much money. But the tulip mania, of course, that was 1634 to 37, I think. So that was in the 1600s. That was in Netherlands, who were supposed to be the most, able business people on earth. They were buying tulips for the price of a house,
Mm-hmm.
literally of a house. It was just a mania that swept through. I gotta have my tulips, and there was somebody trying to make black tulips. There's actually a novel about it by what's his name? Anyway, it's a novel called The Black Tulip. Yeah, they were trying to make all these, tulips that were so valuable, and people were making huge money off of it until tulips went back to their intrinsic value, right? It's not
Yeah.
like the fiat.
Yeah. And it's stuff like that. You see it time and time again with different, yeah, fiats, different anything, any placeholder of value, stocks, whatever, Pokemon cards, Barbies, whatever. The mania is now being applied to this idea of just dial it up and nuke them. Like right when Russia Ukraine started, there were so many people going like, we need a no-fly zone in Ukraine and we need to use tactical nukes, as if we didn't
That
spend
is
eight.
straight up
Well, I know, as if we didn't
madness of
spend
crowds.
80 years and trillions of dollars trying to figure out how to win a nuclear war, and we eventually concluded it can't be done. Like we tried. It wasn't for lack of effort. We tried, and eventually the only conclusion was a net of lasers in space, and it was like, okay, maybe it will just be easier to not fire nukes. You have that same mania coming back though, where people are like, Israel just needs to go. They just need to nuke Tehran and get it over with. And it's like,
Yeah,
what the do
yeah.
you think is
That
going
will
to
be the end
happen?
of Israel,
That'll be the end of the planet.
and no Jew will ever be safe anywhere.
No human will ever be
Nor
safe
will any
anywhere.
American.
It
Nor will any American.
because there won't be any this shit is going to dial. I think Eisenhower said,
Even if they only used maybe 10 weapons, but it probably would not stop there.
no, it
Because
wouldn't.
as soon as somebody's lobbing nukes, it's in your best interest to take them out.
Oh, it's a 30-minute window. This isn't some World War
Yeah.
One where the
I
gears
mean,
of war start turning slowly.
yeah.
This in the course you and I have been talking, it will almost be over. That's
This
Eisenhower
could
said.
literally happen before we're finished with this conversation.
100%. Eisenhower said what you have, and this is Eisenhower, who who's no pussy and understood what war was. He said what you have to understand with nuclear war is there's going to be no bracing for it. There's going to be no big draft where we're going to be courageous men. He was like, this is going to happen in the course of a meeting. In the course of a meeting, and what's going to happen? Are bombs going to go off? No. In the course of a meeting, civilization, I think his quote was, that has been painstakingly built up over thousands of years will be eradicated in a matter of minutes.
Yep.
There's no, there
Yep.
is nothing that comes from this. It only worked when we used them and no one else had them. That's the only time it worked.
You know who Israel really coerces with those weapons? Because they're a they're a mice people. I mean, the Zionists are mice people. Money, ideology, coercion, ego. That's why they have the huge Mossad, which is what does it do? Focuses on like the United States government,
Hmm.
capturing all of our business people and our government and that sort of thing. I mean, they're evil. They're our enemy. The Zionists are our enemy. But keep in mind, huge amounts of Americans are Zionists who aren't really traitors. That they're just deceived.
Just brainwashed.
They're just deceived, but they could come out of it. And I mean, they're good people that are brainwashed, madness of crowds, right? But they use those weapons, those nuclear weapons, if they actually have them, which everybody is insistent that they do. But have you seen them? Have you seen the Golden Fort Knox? I don't know if they have them. And you know what I mean? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But they coerce with that as America. Well, we gotta be good, print more money for Israel because otherwise they'll be in a big war and we'll be in a nuclear war. They're coercing us, right? They're coercing us to keep the printing press going, which means obviously we get poorer and poorer. Look, Americans are living all over the place in RVs all over the place. You know what I mean? Our country is falling apart while we go save the magical elves. Yeah, who do nothing but start wars. You know, they can't run a country. That's crystal clear. We've seen that they can't keep a country together. That they've drugged up and jabbed their own people. The death jabs and the drugs they're doing to their own people, just like our government's doing to us, just like Dutch government's doing to them, right?
I had on Dr. Francis Boyle several years ago. I think he wrote like whatever the official U.S. law or doctrine is on chemical or biological weapons, and yeah, he talked about he was like no one nation. I think he said in his book like half tongue in cheek, half serious. He was like no greater nation has done more to kill Jews with this shot than Israel. He's like percentage wise.
That was my final.
It's
That
the
was when I
craziest
finally did
thing.
a hard break with Israel.
That's what he
When they
said.
were
He
jabbing,
goes
yeah,
is this not? He goes if I'm a Nazi in 2020, he goes what would I do? He goes I would go back to Israel, I'd call everyone back home, and I'd administer this shot.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
so
I mean,
the,
when you look at what Israel is doing, it's really no different than what the Nazis did. Period. Full stop. It's literally that. And as soon as when Netanyahu was pushing that jab, and a lot, and American citizens could not go to Israel without taking the jab. I'm like, that's it. I'm done with you. That's it. There is a final line. If you cross it, you will never cross it again. You've burned it down. It's ashes. It can't be remade. It's not even Humpty Dumpty could at least glue the shell back together. This is done, right? And why would you defend people who just poison? Now, either they actually poison their own people, in which case, they're on a downward spiral, it looks like us, or they didn't do it and they poisoned us, right? Which would mean either way, that's over the top. Why would you support people that are either going to diminish anyway because they've just taken this poison, or they actually just poisoned us and fake, it's a big fake, which means we are clearly an enemy of the Zionists.
mhm.
That's nakedly obvious. They're invading us through our borders constantly. It's not over. Highest Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. You saw that fake Holocaust, the woman who's a fake Holocaust survivor out in Colorado who was a victim of the burn thing recently. That guy, the guy that burned her, came through the Darien Gap. Anyway, it was
Oh,
a
is that
little
the guy that stood up and
thing.
started bitching about
Notice
the
there was a
immigration?
photo of her. She's allegedly a Holocaust survivor, which she's not old enough for that anyway, and she didn't. When you look at the bio, she wasn't. So she was one of those fake people. And at the end of the day, so when she got attacked, she's whining about the anti-Jew or whatever. I'm like, you're wearing a highest tag. You're wearing a highest pin in your photo, right? So the guy who got helped into America by highest then attacks you and you complain. Have fun with your attacker, right? I gave a talk here in Texas last year and I said very clearly, it made some people leave the speech. I said, there will be people coming across the Darien Gap who go to places like West Palm Beach onto a golf course and shoot a bunch of Jews while they're screaming Allahu Akbar, and they will have been helped to get there by Jewish money highest Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, and it will be Jewish money killing Jews. And that made people leave the speech. And I'm like, have fun, right? Because, and now it's happened. Todd Bensman, my friend, he's now a right hand man for Homan. He wrote about this numerous times. A guy who came through the Darien Gap on January 2nd or 3rd, 2023, from Mauritania. He came across the Darien Gap and he shot a guy. He shot a Jewish guy. And he was yelling Allahu Akbar. It was like right out of my speech, right? And it was like, how predictable was that? It was so amazingly predictable. It's almost embarrassing to actually put it in writing or in words. It's like predicting. Let me predict: if I drop this napkin, it'll go down. It did.
I
It was
died.
that predictable.
Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with a solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels. Go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
And when you look at things that are that predictable and that absurd, you then have to start entertaining the idea that there is genuine delusion going on. That this isn't playing dumb. This is legitimate delusion. And it's
For the
now being
masses, I think it's delusion.
yeah.
But for the upper scale, it's
Oh,
hard
they
to
know what they're
tell.
doing. No, they're
It's
brilliant.
hard to tell if
No, they're very intelligent. They know
yeah,
exactly what they're doing.
they're intelligent, but I'm not sure if they're delusional as well. They could be, but they're the ones who are running the masses. They're clearly, but they're also doing things. They're a parasitoid. A parasite is a parasite that doesn't kill the host.
Hmm.
A parasitoid kills the host.
That's
They're
what I,
parasitoids.
that's what I think. Because I used to think, I'm with you. I used to always think like, yeah, no, the lower people and even the people
Oh,
administering it.
you said parasite.
Oh, oh my God. I look at some of
Okay,
it,
but
and
you're a parasite.
I've
Okay.
always I've always known like the lowers like the delusional, and then even like lower management are probably delusional Kool-Aid drinking too. And but then I've gone like whoever's at the very top. Once you look at that, you go, oh, that's benefiting them. Whether it's a buyout here or a bailout or a war or new civil liberties or whatever. But every time it's always looked like it's self detrimental. I've just assumed that I'm not looking at it correctly because they'd be doing something to benefit them. What I haven't really considered
Oh,
until recently is the
can I
people at
stop you on that?
I was going to say, hold on, the people at the very top. It might be that their goal is to destroy everything, themselves included. It might be a death cult. It might be a parasitoid, not a parasite. And then when you look at it that way, you go, oh, no, they know. Why? He said Allah Akbar and he's driving the plane into the World Trade Center. Doesn't he know he's going to die? Yeah. And he
Yeah.
doesn't give a fuck. Oh,
You said two things that are super important. You said two things that are super important. Oh, somebody's working outside. It sounds like I
that's
heard
the
some.
Mossad. They're about to blow your
Yeah.
head off.
Oh, yeah. And they're like drilling something into the wall.
Oh,
Rifle barrel's going to come through
yeah.
now. You said two things that are very important, super important. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you.
No,
That's
I don't
important.
care, dude. Go for it.
But you got me going, man. And so here we go. So one is the death cult. When I was with Jordan Peterson over in who's gone total Zionist, but when I was with Jordan Peterson over in Netherlands, I said to him, I said, because he's a psychologist and all that, obviously, that you can. I learned long ago you have to study their cultural firmware, right? And if it's a cult, study that firmware, obviously, right? Because you can see what they want as their end state, and they will cause it to happen, right? And so there is some Gotterdammerung, you might say, like the Germans. The Germans have this way of we're going to do this war and it's going to be apocalyptic. Like for instance, the various wars that Germany has done, they could have won some of that stuff, right? But they always did ridiculous stuff. Very smart people overextended, did all sorts of things, and it ended up in apocalypse. But that is how their mythology goes. In their mythology, they end up standing in the ashes, right? Or dead and then rising up again, right? So there's that, right? And yeah, there was that. There was another important. What was the first thing you said on there? There was
The the people that run it, it always benefits them. And if that didn't happen, I would assume that my rationale was wrong. But now when I look at it, I go, they don't care about self. Their plan might be to eradicate everything, including themselves.
yeah. I mean,
So
that's straight up
you know,
death cult stuff.
yeah, no. So I guess I used to look at something and be like, okay, let's say a plane gets shot down. You'd be like, well, they wouldn't do that. I'm like, well, if they have insurance on the plane and they own the missile manufacturer, they might do it. And then when you look at it that way, you go, oh, I can see how they do that. What's getting to me now is it seems like they're the ones piloting the plane. And I'm like, well, they wouldn't crash into a mountain because they normally want to get something out of it. They don't care about suffering and killing of others as long as they get something out of it. This doesn't make sense because it seems like they're destroying it all with themselves in it. And then I go,
But
well,
they
man,
clearly are.
if it is true, if it is say like satanic occultism, like yeah, that might be the goal. Is I'm gonna destroy this thing in a ball of fire, and I'm at the center of it. This isn't the Illuminati of days old, where it's like they run the world and they're orchestrating wars, but they live in like the Hamptons. These are people now that are like, I'm gonna ride the nuke into Mecca myself.
I'm wondering if they think in their and they might be because they might. I'm sure they have
They
a
don't
large global
seem to want
architecture.
survival. They seem
Yeah,
like they want it too.
yeah. I'm sure that they've got a large global architect. I mean, the billionaire class, especially the super billionaires, I'm sure they've got a large global architecture of underground facilities that are quite
Sure.
luscious and immense,
I,
right?
yeah.
Huge and beautiful, probably, huge. And so, and they certainly will have the ability to go back and forth between their places. I mean, some of the places I've seen in the world, you can literally drive a yacht into the mountain, you know what I mean, underneath, and
Oh,
you're like
luxury bunkers are absolutely a thing.
a
They're
lot of places
insane.
like that. And so, I mean, you could literally have your all your stuff safely way back under in the mountain with the in the ocean still. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you can literally when you're ready, just huge
but the,
amounts of fuel and
but no, even the nicest bunker is still a bunker. I always used to.
but remember the way we think, if you're trying to be rational, you're being
Yeah.
irrational.
No,
If
that's
you're trying to
trying to
use
look at
sanity,
irrational. Yeah.
if you're trying to use sanity to explain what a parasitoid or a school shooter would do.
Yeah.
You know, you
No,
are
I have
rational.
qualms on this podcast if I don't truly believe in like a product. I won't let them advertise on it. I have issues with that. I can't apply that rationale to people who legitimately want to nuke the Earth. I'm like, yeah, we're
Yeah,
not
because
on the.
that's just not in our firmware. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I'm like, but it's not honest. Like they don't give a fuck.
Exactly,
They look
exactly.
at me and they probably appreciate that I have that mindset because it's weakness to them, and it probably is. But I don't. It's and not so it's not to completely like black pill everyone though. When I look at how dark all of this is, in a weird way, it's actually kind of hope inducing to me because when I look at things that are so evil and I go, there is no other it's not even money anymore. You go, this is just evil. To me, the opposites imply one another. It's sunny and bright right now. That implies that there's a night, and that's when I sleep. We're doing a show right now. That implies there are times when I'm not doing a show. My glasses are up here, which implies that they can be down here. When I look at something so evil and there is no rational reasoning behind it, not gold, money, pussy, real estate power, but it's just a death cult. It also makes me think then that true good does exist. And I don't mean this in some wishy washy, it'll save the world. It won't. But what it does make me think is these people seem to truly believe in like darkness, which makes me think that has to imply the other side. And again, this isn't some delusional we're all going to hold hands. No, it
No,
will.
I think that there are people
No,
that
but
are
yeah,
truly good, and there are people that are truly evil, and truly like irrevocably. And there are people that will go to the wire defending what's right.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, and there's a lot of people on that side as well. And I would like to think I'm on that side. One
yeah.
thing I've noticed just in life in general is cowards are natural traitors.
Mm-hmm.
Cowardice contains the germ of treason. So if you've got somebody who's both a coward and arrogant, that's a recipe for disaster. That's Dr. Smith on Lost in Space. You know what I mean? That's if you know what I'm talking about. But I mean there are a lot of people like that. Those types of people, when they're in government, you're in trouble. That type of person tends to be very cruel. They tend to be overbearing when they get into a position of power. There is nothing they won't do. I mean, when you got cowardice and you've got arrogance mixed together, I mean, you have got a real time bomb, right? And there is some distribution of people that are just like it seems like that's their organic self. If those people are in your circles, you need to distance from them. When this started to really kick off, and like when I returned to the United States in August of 2020, I started purging my ranks of anybody who demonstrated any cowardice.
Mm-hmm.
No, because I've seen this in the actual wars and other situations where I know when stuff hits the fan, I don't want that person knowing any inside stuff
Anything
that they
about
don't
me,
already
where
know.
I am, yeah,
You got to keep arm's distance. I mean, they're still going to be out there, but it doesn't mean they have to be in your inner circle. It's very important. I mean, to recognize and what we've got with one thing that's very important too is PV equals P. PV equals P. Professional victims equal predators, right?
mm-hmm.
And we see the Zionists are professional victims. At the personal, everybody watching this knows that any professional victim that they've seen is all, I'm always a victim. I'm a victim. You're the bad guy. That is a predator. Straight up. That's predatory firmware right there, right? And there's entire cultures that do that. It scales up, right? It scales up and it scales down. So when you see somebody that's always the victim, you got to get distance from them,
Yeah.
right? And don't support them in any way whatsoever. If you don't support them, you take green out of their leaves, right? And that's important, right? It's very important.
Yeah, no, because I mean, in terms of survival, it makes sense. If you can't be the biggest, baddest, yeah, then whimper and try to get what you can and try to acquire resources through minimal effort and then backstab anyone around you. But so, how does something like this get, and it might not, there might not be an answer. How does something like this get, so if you're like, you're looking at this and you're in, whatever, in the intelligence community, and not the evil ones, I'm sure that there are good people. How do you remedy this? Like, how do you? release the pressure on this? How do you, if you, I'm not even saying it's like the most likely outcome, but for the outcome where it does, like if you go up to bat, it's very unlikely you're going to hit a home run every time. But you can imagine what it would look like if you did hit a home run. What would it? What does survival look like at the geopolitical level right now? Is it the U.S. going in and just shooting down Iranian and Israeli rockets and just saying calm down? Is
The
it?
U.S. doesn't have the ability
I
to do it.
know, I
We
know.
don't even have the ability.
I'm asking. Like,
We don't have a magic wand.
I
Remember,
know.
remember how Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam and Korea played out, right? It did not play out well, and now we're going up against an enemy. They're not, I don't even, why is Iran my enemy? I have never met an Iranian that I want to put a bullet in. I have just not met one that I even want to run off the road. I've never met one that I want to shoot a bird at. You know what I mean? I don't, the Iranians that I meet, I tend to like them actually, weirdly. So, I mean, but I'm supposed to, they are my assigned enemies, right? So I'm
Yeah.
supposed to wake up in the morning and hope that the people who push death jabs and help invade the United States and bleed us and spy on us and run Epstein Island. So I'm supposed to think that's my buddy because if I don't call them my buddy, they'll say you're an anti Semite and they'll use terrorism on me because you'll get debanked. That's terrorism. That's straight up terrorism, right? You'll get debanked. You'll get this. You'll get that. You could go to prison for saying something bad. That is actual terrorism, right? And so the actual terrorists are trying to terrorize us that we have to support them. That is the ultimate professional victim. That's got, when you look at all the, the array of things that go into a personality, that's the depths of mud, right? I mean, there's like, where's the gold flakes in this, right? I mean, if you're trying to say that I have to support you, I have to give you both kidneys or I'm an anti Semite, you know what? You can get busy going to hell, right? Have fun. I'm done with them. I used to be a huge supporter of, and keep it in mind, they always try to conflate Zionism with Judaism. That's part of the information war. It's not. It appears that I think the majority of Zionists seem to be Christian evangelicals
Mm-hmm.
who, no matter what Israel does, they're God's chosen people at the rave party doing drugs and having sex out in the field in front of everybody with a whole group of people doing drugs and they get killed, but they're God's children. Nah, they're not. They're not.
No, no
It's
one
all
is.
fake. It's like
No one should get a carte blanche backing in anything.
we don't, and we
No one
don't ask for
should.
it. And we don't ask for it. Have you noticed? Have we played victim at any point here?
Well,
Nope. We're offense.
I'm very
We're
thankful.
offense.
I'm very thankful for all the aid Israel sent us when Hurricane Helene took out North Carolina. I thought it was.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
very thankful for the aircraft carriers they sent.
yeah. Or just anything, right?
Yeah, the
Just a letter
band,
of condolence, right?
a bottle of water.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a parasitoid and it's killing us. And keep in mind, if you look at the history of Israel, it's quite complex. One person you might want to interview is Al Johnson. He's a historian. He's a good friend of mine. He's actually Orthodox Jew, and he knows a lot
You can
about
get
the
them on.
history
I'll
of
have them
Israel.
on.
Yeah, he knows a lot. In fact, I asked him to brief our Centurion team here the other day, and he did
I'll make a
on the
list.
history of Israel. And actually, a lot of the people who hate the Zionists in Israel the most are actually Orthodox Jews. A lot of the Orthodox Jews absolutely hate Israel because they know that it's just a Zionist mechanism, and it latched on to Judaism just as much as it latched on to Christianity, just as much as it latched on a lot of, believe it or not, many Zionists are Muslims, right? A lot of the Kurds are Zionists and they're
Really?
Muslims. Yep. I learned that 20 years ago when I was out with them. And yeah, I was out with Kurds quite a lot in Iraq, in a Kurdish area and in Mosul as well. And the Kurds were wildly pro Israel and actually Zionist, right? So that's what I've been telling, like the Kurds who were taken in this place in Japan called Kawaguchi. They're actually, I mean, I know it's subtle. Most people won't see it, but I watch the anthropological aspects of these things a lot. That's actually a front wave of Zionism, right? But in the guise of Kurds. And I get along with Kurds great. I've always enjoyed my time with Kurds, but I'm under no illusions that you know where I first saw this was I was in Iraq and I was about to go out with Kurds up in the Kurdish area, but I was in Mosul. I started studying up on Kurds more, and I saw online that they were conversing with Israelis in English as a lingua franca. They were talking in English online with each other. And the Israelis were telling a lot of Kurds live in like Tennessee, like around Nashville and over in California and whatnot. And they were showing the Israelis were showing the Kurds how to take over centers of power in America. They're like, here in Nashville, you need to get to know this guy, and this guy, and this woman here. And they're giving them names like, you need to know this person. You need to reach out to them. You need to know this lawyer. You need to know that. That's the person that runs this office. And they're basically teaching you how to fly the helicopter, right? Or how to take over the cockpit is more accurate, right? They're teaching you how to to just come into a country and take political influence there. So, and they're doing that in Japan, right? So, I mean, that is direct, and I just found that by accident. So I was up with the Kurds a lot, and I would ask them, you know, what do you think of Israel? And they're like, oh, number one. Oh, America's number one. You know, Israel number one in America. That they did that sort of thing many times. And then I was out with some of the really top Zionists over in Washington D.C. And you know, and I talked about this, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, many people think the Kurds are a lost tribe of Israel. And many of the Kurds actually think that as well, right? Many of other Kurds say no, but you can get some Kurds on and ask them. I mean, they're Kurds are actually good to talk with, and a lot of them speak English as well as we do. So you can maybe find one and get them on your show and ask them what they think. I mean, because a lot of them will say, yeah, we're a lost tribe. They'll be like, I'm Muslim now, but we used to be Jewish. And actually, a lot of Pashtuns say that in Afghanistan and Pakistan, right?
Do you think
They'll say
that
the same thing.
do you think that whatever we're going through right now is just necessary for to be it psychologically, geopolitically, militarily, whatever we're going through right now is the end stage of just decades of horse shit and lies and victimizing. That whatever we're going through right now is just some uncomfortable growing pain, and you know it might nuke the planet, it might not, but either way, we're kind of at this impasse where it's like we have to go through the door, and there might be a bomb, there might not be.
You know what? I mean, this goes through my mind pretty often, and people have thought these thoughts since before our grandparents were born. But there may have been really serious civilizations before and somehow got wiped out or
Sure.
wiped themselves out. Because why is it that old books are the oldest books we find are, you know, a couple thousand years old? Why don't we have like 30,000-year-old books or something? You know what I'm saying? Why don't we have, you know, I bought this book the other day and it's from 1846, I think 1846, and it's about the history of inventions actually. And it talked about this is a 1846 book, but they're talking about 14 and 1500 stuff. And they're talking about how um, as soon as the printing press was out, they started making a machinery for censorship, including like organized book burnings across many places. I mean, it was like organized, and the United States did that in Japan after World War II. And actually, a lot of those books burned by the Nazis were actually books about transsexual crap
Mm-hmm.
and all that sort of stuff. And so, you know, there's a lot of things out there that just ain't so, right? One thing is very interesting. Why don't we have a lot of very, very old books? Because somebody built a lot of really sophisticated stuff and they're gone. We don't really have any memory of them. And why? This is quite strange.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that would survive is rock. It's the only thing that would last that long.
But sophisticated people, you would think would,
Well, unless they wipe themselves out.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm curious. Did we wipe ourselves out? Or did somebody wipe us out, or some event or events? I have no idea, but I mean, but you know, one thing's for sure, we do have some sort of, it seems like we have collective latent memories. You know, if you're getting, I don't know, Joseph Campbellish here or Carl Jungish or something, you know, but
Shared archetypes and stuff. But
yeah,
no, it does seem to. There's almost like
You look at the Bible, man. The Bible is basically a survival manual.
Yeah. Oh
In
yeah.
the Bible, it wasn't just a bunch of guys sat down one day and wrote the Bible. There is deep, deep wisdom in there that didn't just pop out of some guy's pen one day. You know what I mean? That clearly was wisdom
That
that
came
came from
from,
a
yeah.
long line
You
of
you
experience.
don't start
Because
with
a lot of that
wisdom.
stuff is just as appropriate today as it ever was,
That's a
right?
good point. Yeah.
So where did that come from? You
That's a
know?
good point. Yeah, cuz like, I'm 34. It's like, well, what are some like what are some like truisms like, you know, hard work is more valuable than like genius or talent or luck, and it's you always be respectful, show up on time, treat others the way you'd like to be treated. And that's taken me a long time, and getting into med school and building the podcast and like multiple weightlifting, multiple endeavors where I've been like, okay, I can some things I go, yeah, that just takes time. I've now learned that. I didn't know that when I was born. It took me a while to learn.
Right.
That's a good point. It's this very old book and it has wisdom in it, like timeless wisdom. Well, where did that it had to have come from a very long time.
Straight up 24 karat wisdom. Just pick some random stuff and just pick a random page and
Y-
go, yep, hey, they will kick your gold and silver coins in the dust, during a famine, stuff like that. I didn't exactly
Yeah.
one,
No,
one time I was doing an interview about 4 years ago, and I said, maybe longer now. And I said, and I kept saying pandemic, famine, war, pandemic, famine, war, they go together, right? Because I read just tons of old books, right? And I kept noticing pandemic and famine and war always go together. So I was doing this interview, and there was a lady called in, and she goes, I've been reading your work, thank you. And she was very polite, and she said, you talk about pandemic, famine, and war going together as if you made that up. And I said, I did. And she goes, no, it's in the Bible. I was like, yikes. If you're gonna if you're gonna plagiarize, go big. So I looked it up and it is in the Bible. It's straight up in the Bible.
early
The
bird
four
gets the
horse,
worm, Michael Yon.
which is probably where I got it from, was the Bible, but forgot where I got it from. Source amnesia. But I mean, it's straight up pandemic, famine, and war definitely ride together. Four horsemen, right?
Yeah.
And so there are three of the four horsemen. And so there you go. And so they already had worked that out long ago. And you didn't just work that out in one lifetime.
No.
And keep in mind, our lifetimes, you and I and our grandparents, we live about as long. Yeah, we're like
Well,
little
it'll
bugs that were born and we'll be gone soon, right? And so the only way you're gonna be able to distill what knowledge that we might be able to assimilate or create is to write it down and somehow save it for somebody else to read. Like this old book. But it's very interesting. I read in some old book recently that the old families last not 3 oaks. The old families last not 3 oaks, like an oak tree. Like, in fact, there's an oak tree right outside the door here that's over 100 years old, I'm told. It looks like it. But, there's oak trees that live 2 or 3 thousand years old. There's oak trees alive now that were alive when Jesus was born, right? So the old saying, the old families last not 3 oaks, they don't last 2 oaks. They don't last 1 oak. You know what I'm saying? You know,
yeah.
they somehow eventually things die, and that includes structures, right? That includes organizational structures. Eventually, seem to have an expiration date. I don't know what causes it. People have thought about it for years. One thing, if the people that are running this show are really as ultra wise as they would like to make out, they must be if they found any secret of immortality, they certainly not shared it. And Hillary Clinton hasn't found it. And of course, on that level, that they're the lower level people, like the Clintons and the Trumps, who think that they're the top dogs. But the ultra wealthy people, they look at the nouveau billionaires as like
Oh,
trailer.
trash. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah. It,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, as the comedian Tim Dillon said, he's like, they all want war, they make money on war, but he's like, they don't want nuclear war because they all like yachts and penthouses, and
but
that's
remember, you only need a few.
yeah.
Only need a few school shooters to,
Yeah, to f it
up the
all up.
work. So it's
No,
not, again, and in war, most of people in every war, most people never fight.
Sure.
There's only some small percentage actually fight. And in there, if some group, if just a few people want to lob nukes, they're going to lob them, right? I mean, think about all the players that could get it kicked off here. Pakistan, obviously Israel. I think the number one and two that are most likely to lob nukes are Israel and the United States. If Israel actually has nukes, and everybody says, of course Israel has nukes. Everybody knows that. Like everybody knows Bigfoot and that Fort Knox has gold. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't see them. I wasn't there with a Geiger counter and looking at design plans, which I wouldn't understand anyway. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Let's just assume that they do. ASSUME, make an ass out of you and me. But if they do, Israel, they've been crystal clear. I mean, the Zimps, the Zionist imperialists are straight up insane. I don't doubt that they would use them. I don't doubt that at all. And if they do, I mean, keep in mind, China and Russia are fully behind Iran. Why would Iran? Trump wants to negotiate with Iran. Iran's like blowing him off. Like, no, they told Qatar and Kuwait, no, we're not going to negotiate with Trump. I wouldn't negotiate. Why would they suddenly negotiate with Trump when they can clearly see that their missiles are landing in Israel unopposed?
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Israel is suddenly their rocket range, and why would you do that when Israel has been threatening to nuke you? When Israel is destroying targets in downtown Tehran and places like that, right? Why would you do that? They're not. And keep in mind, one of the most dangerous things for Israel right now is that people can see the weakness. They can see the man behind the curtain. Toto has pulled back the curtain, right? And now they see, wait a minute, the man has no iron dome,
Mm.
right? And actually, Israel is far weaker. They're desperate right now. They're pleading for support from the United States. And I wouldn't doubt it if they do another USS Liberty on us or another 9/11 or something. They're going to blame it on Iran, of course,
Yeah,
and
no, that's definitely the desire. You can see it coming a mile away. That's what it's going to be. They want us
at some
involved.
point, an American is going to say, that's enough, right? And many of us already are saying, that's enough. We've had enough. I don't want to hear your anti Semitism bullshit anymore. I don't want to hear any of that stuff anymore. Talk to the hand. You come in here with that professional victim stuff, you're not going out with anything, right?
Yeah.
And keep in mind, the parasitoid is self-destructive. I mean, the highest, bringing all those people in, lady wearing the highest tag gets attacked by one of the people she supported bringing in, and then she blames it on anti-Semitism. Yeah. And she was a fake Holocaust victim. She's too young to be a Holocaust victim.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, the perpetual victim thing, and I guess we'll kind of wrap it up with. But I think about what is that?
Wrapping up with PV equals P.
Well, I was gonna say no. It's my grandfather couldn't because he had eye problems and health issues. But his brother, my great uncle, my late great uncle Rich, was 18 years old, and when he survived Omaha Beach, and I go, and then Bibby gives a speech going, "The world turned a blind eye when we were hurt in World War II," and
BB can do this thing called go to hell, right?
on a visceral level,
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
fucked,
On a
yo.
visceral level. Exactly. Like really, like
Like
deeply.
it's not abstractly. Like I remember he's the guy
Yeah.
that got me into working out. He's the guy that told me to do pull-ups instead of chin-ups because you had to do a
Yeah.
pull-up to get over a wall because if you're getting shot at. And I always remember that. That
Right.
guy was when I was 18, I was an idiot chasing skirts at a private Catholic school. When he was 18, he was on Omaha Beach. No one came to help us. Go yourself. Go yourself. That is it's in your face at that point. You
Yeah.
go you
Because they
go to
don't they don't
fucking hell.
respect people they can trick, like the carnies. They're like gypsies. They don't respect anybody that they can fool like that. Like Trump. Trump getting all of his people to jab for him. I mean, many of them, and then they still vote for him, even when their own family members are falling dead
Dropping
at the
dead
dinner
from
table.
myocarditis. Yeah, it's whatever it is. I feel like we're going
People like
through.
that never respect the people that they trick.
Why would you?
Only people they respect are the ones like us who are like, get out of my face. Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not meeting you halfway with your little sadness and all this crap, and
Yeah, fuck off,
got to
bro.
take me to the wall or some crap. I'm not going to Auschwitz with you. I've already been there. I don't need to go.
Yeah, fuck off.
They're dragging all these people by the ear with their professional victimhood stuff. When many of us, our own family lines have suffered just as much, if not a lot more. And yet we're not professional victims. We're
80,
just not.
85 million people died in World War II. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Everyone got. No
Yeah.
one, no one lost more people. If you really want to go down this, no one lost more people to Nazis than Russia. Off.
And per capita, it was Polish.
Yeah. So like, it's and that doesn't diminish it. It was all bad, but you don't get to keep using that line.
Yeah.
Everyone's hurting.
It's
Shut the
worn out.
fuck. Yeah.
You know what a defensive hand grenade is? There's different types of hand grenades, and I'll be
No.
quiet after this. There's offensive hand grenades. There's been thousands of types of hand grenades made over the years in different armies and stuff. And an offensive hand grenade is less powerful, like a M26. It's like a pound, right? So it's powerful, but it's not that powerful that you can throw it and not get blown up, right? I mean, the but a defensive hand grenade is one that's so big that you have to throw it from a bunker or a trench or
Right.
something behind cover. You have to be behind a wall or something, right? That's a defensive hand grenade. It's a big hand grenade.
Yeah.
Like you can't throw it out of the kill radius, right? And so to me, this is the example I've used for some years now. Calling and throwing the anti-Semite card or the racism card or the anti-Jew card when it clearly was not in order is like tossing a defensive grenade and standing up.
Hmm.
Like it's the guy going, "You're an anti-Semite because you said something they didn't like," and they're just standing up, getting their own blast at that
Shrapnel
point.
sphere.
They're getting their own shrapnel because as soon as they say it, I don't take them seriously anymore, and I look at them as a predator because they clearly are a predator. As soon as they say that, they might as well write predator on their
Yeah.
forehead.
Yeah.
And once you start to see them for what they are, predators, it changes the whole calculus and the whole dynamic, and you've just taken their power away. They just gave you their power, and you're like, I'll take that now, and that's no longer usable, right? You're anti-Semite, got it, done. Magic wand is broken, and that's when more people do this, it'll stop. There's no the power, the magic wand will be broken, and then we'll be free. We'll be free of that spell, that madness of that crowd that has been created through an architecture of brainwashing that is very sophisticated. It's like a cathedral of brainwashing. But as soon as you break out of it and you get out of that cathedral and you're in the sunlight, it's over and their whole system collapses.
Allegory of the cave. Yeah. Walk out of the cave, and
That's
it's
right.
and yeah, and like anything, it always seems scary, and then you do it, and then you realize that you should have done it a long time ago. So
Yeah, you're like, we can never do that. We can never do this. And you're like, wait a minute, I just did it.
yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's the first time you do anything. It's I stopped drinking like a year and a half ago, and I was always like, but that's what I do on Fridays. I'm Irish, and I'm like a year and a half into it. I'm like, yeah, no, I probably should have done this years ago. I feel great. Like
Yeah.
it's just like
Like,
nothing.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, why would I ever?
Why
I
did I
mean, when I was
fucking
younger in the army and stuff, I'd drink and
sure?
later on, like, why I'm
I
wasting
look at
time.
it now. I'm
I'm
like, why in God's
I'm
name
not
would I?
getting the sleep I need to get. You know
No,
what?
and I'm
Yeah.
broken for like 3 days after it. I'm like, why would I do this? Like,
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's stupid.
yeah,
And you listen to the music that we play in the United States. I've been telling people like stop. Listen, people so often come up to me. They're like, "Why don't you have PTSD or whatever? Why are you happy despite all these things?" I'm like, I think it's because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any drugs. I do drink coffee,
caffeine.
and I should probably stop.
No,
But the in the morning anyway, I drink it. I don't drink it in the afternoon. But the thing is I don't listen to sad music. I don't listen to any of that crazy ass crap music because numerous times people have been telling me they act sad, and I'm like, "Can I see your music list?" I'm like, Get rid of this crap. Get rid of this sad song. Say so much, Dawn. Right? Look, get rid of all that music. The reason you're sad is because you're listening to
You're
Poison,
you're
right?
feeding it.
You're listening to Poison and country music. Country music is like, I got drunk and my dog left me and my wife was with my
Yeah.
best
So
friend.
stop
You know what I mean?
drinking then,
It stopped drinking, and also the music is all about
and stop basking in it.
yeah, the music is all about I'm drunk again and my dog ran off and my wife is with my best friend and it's all this crap, right? And rap music is like, let's go kill the cops, you know what I mean? It's like you can't make up this stuff. And who comes up with all this music? Hmm. So I mean, yeah. I mean, so the control of the media is absolutely severe. I mean, if you're going to destroy a country, if I were the devil,
If I
Paul
were the
Harvey,
devil, yeah.
1965, you're going to get them on all that alcohol and drugs and all that, get them on the peels and listening to that crappy music. And the next thing you know, remember, everybody watching this has had at least one severe alcoholic or drug addict or gambling fiend or whatever in their family. Everybody.
Hmm.
I don't think I have ever met an exception to that. And if you have 10 people under your roof, but one of them is a drug addict, that's like catching a hellfire missile through your window,
Yeah.
right? And so the enemies that are destroying us,
Far more
they're doing it
dangerous.
with those pharmacological warfare and the music and all this crap and these, the movies about, man, let's go steal cars, Grand Theft Auto and these video games and all that crap.
Which comes back to, honestly, it kind of comes back to the Bible, and it comes back to, so what wisdom, if we're saying everything that's wrong, it's really not that hard to figure everything out. Go to bed early, get good sleep, go to the gym, go outside, get some sunshine on you. Don't drink, don't smoke, read. I enjoy reading. I just started a book about I think Grover Cleveland. I've never known anything about him. I just started it. Why? Because so now I can know something about Grover.
That's the most obscure president ever.
Yeah, and that's because of it. I don't know shit about him. So I saw the book and I
Tell me
went, I
something
didn't know
about
anything
it. How
about him.
far are you into the book?
I literally opening credits. I mean, like 30 seconds. No, but my
Which
point is that.
president?
Hold on, my point is this though.
Yeah, I got it.
It's not that hard to avoid all this shit.
No, it's
It's
not.
really there's no. It's not some hyper complex schematic. Early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's pretty
Dad used to
simple.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty simple, dude. You don't. That's the good thing. It's like the remedy is very simple. All right, what were you gonna say about Grover?
Oh, I was asking you, which president was he?
I have no idea.
20 something?
That's why I looked at it, because I don't even know what president he was. I don't even know where he was president. So I want to learn about it.
Yeah.
Do that instead of drinking. Yeah. That's what I would say.
He's like
Learn about
Ford.
Grover Cleveland.
President Ford. Nobody's like Ford.
I don't know shit about, well,
Car.
at least the only one. Yeah, that's my point though. Is like, yeah, it's pretty simple, and it's right there. It's very simple. It's not brain surgery. You can, it might take you a little bit, but you can right the ship, and you'll be objectively happier. I can say that you will be objectively happier. So
What did Edward R. Murrow say? Well, he said many clever and wise things, but one of them was like, the obscure we eventually see, but the obvious may take a little longer.
yeah.
Like the
Oh
things
yeah,
make
it's,
it obvious, like that the Zionists are parasitoid leeches,
yeah. No,
right?
it's
I mean,
no. That's what I would say is like the obvious. Hey, you should, I don't know, stop getting so up on weekends. Took me 3.5 decades to realize. It's so obvious. Now I look at it and I go, yeah, I probably didn't feel good because I was putting not feel good juice in my mouth.
yeah, literally when you would have been studying and going up on a
That's what I
higher
mean.
level.
That's what I mean is like, so the obvious, sometimes you just got to learn, you got to burn your hand on the stove.
Yeah,
And I think that's kind of where we are. So two ways to look at it. You can black pill or say, hey, we're going through some growing pains, but there's beauty on the other side. So I'm
that's
going to look
right.
at it that
That's
way.
right. Just use that for wisdom and keep rolling.
Amen. All right, dude. Well, yeah, let's wrap this up. I'll text this to you when it's up tomorrow. And as always, man, I appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Tommy.
All
Talk
right,
with you
brother.
soon.
Thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much for watching.